talk about Airstream mechanism and phonation types. And to be more specific, we're going to do some of the weird sounds on your IPA chart. I'm going to give you the IPA chart, and we're going to go through the chart for the consonants, for the pulmonic consonant. Later, you will know what it means by saying pulmonic. And then we'll explain a very important concept that's called voice onset time. And phonation types, there are 4 major phonation types which we will introduce. And then I'll see if we can get to the Airstream mechanism because it's relatively more complex. And you're going to have to exercise the muscles in your larynx and your glottis, your larynx. So it might be more complex. We'll see if we have enough time. For people who have tongue tie, I mean, we all have some sort of muscle connecting the bottom of your tongue to the lower surface of your oral cavity. But some people's tongue are more closed to the bottom than regular people. So it means what happens when you have a more severe tongue tie, more tightened tongue tie? Which part of your articulators will be affected? The front or the back? Front or back? Who think it's the front? Who think it's the back? The back. Why the back? Okay, tongue tie. It actually affects the frontal part of your tongue more. So when you're producing labial, palatal sounds, it's mostly the front part of your tongue. But for the back of for velar and uvular and pharyngeal sounds, you use the back of your tongue. So in most cases, it's the alveolar sound that's affected because you cannot raise your tongue tip to touch your alveolar ridge even. And for other people, it could be because of some disease of their larynx that they actually get their entire larynx removed. So what happened is they cannot talk. They cannot talk like general people with normal speech. So what happened is they are going to need this gadget to help them produce the source. I'll show you.
That this hands-free electoral larynx is much better and has made my life happier, much happier.
What happened? I mean, you can use that gadget that we mentioned. What happened to your speech? Yeah, monotonic. Yeah, because the beauty of our vocal fold is we can actually fluctuate our intonation and then we can sing. But that thing produces a constant pitch to be the source. And then, of course, you can move your articulators to pronounce your consonants and vowels, but you lose your intonation. Okay? So there is a reason why we want to study these articulators. And if you're interested, you can study speech pathology to help other people improve their speech. Okay, we're going to go from left to right. Bilabial sounds, you know, you use both your lips. And labial dental, what's involved in labial dental sounds? Lip and teeth, labial and dental. And what's next? The dental, the teeth is involved. Alveolar, you know. And what's next? Post-alveolar. I actually can't see it. I lost my glasses, so you're going to have to help me. Post-alveolar. Anything that's after your alveolar. And what's next? Okay, that's the new thing, retroflex. And you guys are expert of retroflex among many speakers. Mandarin has retroflex. Or your shi. So try to do the roll as in rabbit. And then contrast it with our Can you feel which one is further back? 你觉得哪一个比较后面 ？Rabbit 的 re 还是日子的日 ？re 日 Which one is further back? 日 right? That's our retroflex, 卷舌. Okay, so retroflex is listed behind our alveolar and post-alveolar for that reason. Following that is your palatal sounds. That's the bony area, the hard palate area. We have the ya sound for the palatal sound. And then velar, uvular. You guys remember uvula? That lonely guy in the back? And then followed by pharyngeal and glottal. So why don't we give it a try? Can you go over just this row, just this plosive, this stops? Can you practice all the stops that's listed there and tell me which ones that you can do or cannot do? Now, do the t and the with the curled tongue. Lovely, lovely, good. Palatal sound, this is slightly challenging. So instead of, when you're doing d and t, your tongue is touching your alveolar ridge. Now try touching your palate instead. D, g, 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 g. So for the voiceless one, it's g, g, g. And for the voiced one, it's g, g. I know, okay, let's do it backwards. Let's do the k and g. Do k, k, k. When you're doing k, feel where your tongue is touching. It should be touching your velum, right? Now move it forward a little bit. Originally it's k, 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 k. And then you do k, k, k. You just move it forward a little bit. It might not make sense to us because in our language, the distinction between these two sounds are not phonemic. You can move your tongue freely in Mandarin, saying gong or gong. People still think you're saying gong, okay? But our job in this class is to introduce you. There are people using palate as one of their major stop place of articulation, and you just need to know. So for the velar, you do k, 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 k. Do it a couple of times. You will feel where your tongue is touching. You do k, k, k. And then move it further back without gagging. It's hard. Okay, listen to me. It's Can you try touching that lonely guy in the back? And you can feel that he doesn't want to let go. Your tongue would be touching it, and then when you lower it, you can feel like it's gluing onto your. So I have a friend from Egypt. His name is Khalaf. Khalaf. Let's do it. Khalaf. Okay, you're getting there. All these guys listed on the right-hand side, they're voiced. So this is Khalaf, Khalaf, right? If you want to do the voiced component, you do Khalaf, Khalaf, Khalaf. Nasals are fun. Okay, bilabial nasal, how do you do it? Okay, the key thing about saying consonant is sometimes they're voiceless, so it's harder to hear them. So we add a in front and behind the consonant. So instead of saying we say ama, ama. Now, how do you do a labial dental nasal? This is blocking the air in your mouth in the region using the lip and your teeth. You see, it's the same place of articulation with your v sound, right? Okay, do v, and then do a v nasal. Now let's do an alveolar nasal that you can do. Anna, anna, anna. Good. Now this is slightly difficult, but shouldn't be to you. Can you say the nasal sound with the retroflex? The center of your tongue should be touching around the palate or in between alveolar and palate, and you do a Just curl your tongue and say the sound. Now, can you do a palatal nasal? Let's do the velar nasal again and do it backwards so we can do the palatal nasal. Do the velar nasal. As in sing, singer, right? Now, move your tongue, the back of your tongue a little bit further so it become I love having you in this class. This is fun. Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon. Where is Grand Canyon? Right at pronunciation for Grand Canyon. The nyang sound is actually the palatal nyang. Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon. Now you can do the velar nasal. Okay, this is the fundamental challenge. Can you do a uvular nasal? So you were doing cut off, remember? Cut off. Don't release it. Pronounce the nasal instead. Some of you probably cannot do it. Who can do a bilabial trill? Trill, definition of trill is you have air rushing out from your lung and you keep vibrate some part of your Yeah, let's do it. Just have the air coming out and you do the bilabial, you make both of your lip vibrate very quickly. The definition is trill is to vibrate something. So all the things that could be vibrated in your oral cavity, first is are your lips. They are quite free. I see most of you can do it. That lonely guy dangling in the back, your uvula. So you see there is a uvular trill. Can you try the bilabial fricative? So it means that you use both of your lips to create a tunnel so that when the air was rushing out, it creates some turbulence. No, don't do the lip rounding, just spread your lip. So you do fa, 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 fa. It's not fa, it's fa, fa. You can, of course, do the voiced counterparts. Now let's do something more. This is easy. Do a s with retroflex. And r, sh, r. And then palatal fricatives are slightly harder. Let's do the velar fricative. You need to do this one to do the French maxi. Use the back of your tongue and make it approach your velum and create a tunnel and do. Can you do it? Pretend you're making the k sound, but lower your tongue a little bit so there's a channel. And you do. Sometimes you will unavoidably trill your uvula when you're doing the velar fricative. And then, of course, you can do the uvular fricative. And then there are other sounds. This one is challenging. This is the L sound, but you blow the air alongside the sides of your tongue. So you do L, and then you blow air out. So it's one of the most difficult sounds for people who are trying to learn Welsh. Glottal stop. This one. Have you seen this symbol before? It's important if you want to learn American accent. This happens in Kitten. How do you pronounce the? Usually people do kitten, right? But have you heard of other American people pronounce it differently? Kitten, kitten. Okay, there are K-E you recognize, and there's a nasal in the back. Something mysterious is happening in the middle. Kitten, kitten, What's happening there for many American English speakers is you block the air using your vocal folds. You block the air here and let go. So try say kitten again and see, is there anything happening in your oral cavity? I bet you $10 there's nothing happening in your oral cavity if you're saying it right. Okay, so try to kitten, kitten, kitten. Something's happening here, but not in your oral cavity, right? That is a glottal stop. So this is a voiceless glottal stop. Okay, it says plosive, but sometimes we just call them stops because the air is stopped. And you also need to know this guy. It's called tap or flap. This happens in what words in American English? Better? Better? It's not better. They don't aspirate that T in the middle of better. They don't do that for kitty. They don't do that for letter. It's letter. So you just flap your tongue tip to the alveolar area and then just kind of tap it. So you can call it a tap or a flap. And the way to write it is you do a hook. It's like a fish hook. The R family, which you might get confused about. The alveolar tap, now that you know, it happens in between two, when the T is between two vowels and the first vowel is stressed, you get a tap. We'll talk about the phonological rule when we get to the phonology session. But you just need to remember a couple words that you pronounce with T, better, kitty, you just kind of tap it. And the second one is a regular R in American English, as in rabbit. It's the R. But in IPA symbol, we don't write it, the sound as the upside down. You do it upside down. You see it's writing the R only upside down. Can you tell? 倒过来写. And then if it's a correct regular R, it is a alveolar trill. Okay, this is the priority that you need to get past. So when I ask you to transcribe sounds, follow the international standard and transcribe the rabbit R as this. I guess we won't have cases for the regular R. And then for uvular trill, it's the capital R. Okay? And then for the retroflex, r. It's the R. It's the upside down R with the hook. All the retroflex are labeled with the extra hook. You can see that on your chart. Okay? That's for this pulmonic sounds. I'm going to emphasize here it's called pulmonic because all these sounds we have been producing actually use the air which come out of your lung. That's why they're pulmonic. Okay, so by the end of this lecture, we're going to introduce some other sounds that you can pronounce, you can produce without using your lung. Okay, when you're doing the click, you're capturing a tiny body of air inside your oral cavity and let go. And when you are doing the back of your tongue is blocking near the velar area, and the tip of your tongue is in the alveolar region, and you do some kind of sucking and then let go. That's how you make it. You actually can click other areas in your mouth besides the alveolar area. You can do a dental click. Just touch different area, and then you make different click sounds. I should try to see. I think there are people who use clicks to sing. Okay, so remember last I was demonstrating was actually a demonstration of Bernoulli's effect, Bernoulli's law, 白努力原理. So I thought I'd give you some written definitions so you can remember it better. Back between velocity and pressure of air. Okay, I'll explain it further. So they are in reversely proportion. What happened is, so if the velocity, 速度, if the velocity of air is increased, the pressure perpendicular to that direction will be decreased. So have you heard it's dangerous to stand really close to a fast train? What happened when you're really close to it? You got sucked in. Because this is the train, and this is you. When the train is going, the air is actually accompanying the train, and it's going really fast. So the pressure perpendicular 跟那个方向垂直的压力就会变小。这里的压力变小，这里的压力很大。You get sucked in. Okay, so it's very dangerous. Don't get really close. But there are dangerous things happening even in your bathroom too. I guess shower curtains aren't very popular in Taiwan. Do you know what shower curtains are? Okay, usually you have a curtain to avoid the water coming out. Actually, when you first turn on the shower head, Bernoulli effect also would happen. Because what happened is, this is your shower curtain, this is you, and this is the water coming out. The air would actually be pushed by the water. So the pressure between you and the curtain will decrease. And the curtain, which one gets sucked to which? Not you to the curtain, right? So you will have a curtain glued to you. HSR and your vocal folds, remember, your vocal fold. Every time it's doing the vibration, it's affected by the Bernoulli effect. Okay, now a little bit more study of the larynx because we're going to move on to the phonation type. Okay, what's the glottis? Is it a muscle? Is it a bone? Is it? No, it's the opening between your vocal folds. Okay, these are your vocal folds. Remember the white lining that's doing the vibration? Glottis is the opening. It's a space. It's not a real bone. It's not a muscle. It's a space in between your vocal folds. So when we're pronouncing the glottal stop, as in kitten, the closure is here. There's no glottis. I mean, you're closing your vocal folds so the air cannot come out. That's why we call it a glottal stop. Okay? And these two triangular cartilage, 这些两个三角形的软骨, they control the movement of your vocal fold to open it or narrow it to produce voice and voiceless sounds and other sounds. So you need to remember glottis is the opening between your vocal folds, and these are the cartilage name arytenoid. Can you do that? Arytenoid. Good, good. And then the epiglottis. I need to make it clear. The epiglottis is actually not well made. You see the epiglottis actually have holes in this model? 有没有看到洞? Epiglottis should not have holes because it's supposed to cover your larynx, remember? So any item or teeth cannot fall into your trachea. So it should not have holes. So this is your epiglottis. And you need to remember these terms. Okay, are you good? Now moving on. This you have seen before. So if you want to produce a voiced sound, your vocal folds are not tightly together, but they're close. You see they're kind of parallel to each other. There's a tiny opening for the air to pass by so it can vibrate. That's when you're try to pronounce a voiced sound. And for voiceless sound, you just have it wide open. You say, when you're saying these voiceless sounds, it's wide open. Now, there are two new things you need to learn that concerns us today. I'll start with the easy one. I was trying to mimic what your vocal folds are doing when you're pronouncing a creaky sound. What's a creaky sound? You do that. This is how it sounds. Ma, ma. So when you're doing the Mandarin tone 3, in the middle of it, you're doing a little bit of creakiness. Ma. That you're pronouncing a creaky sound. So what happened is your vocal folds, this part of your vocal fold, imagine it was controlled by my fingers. You cannot vibrate this part. But only this part is vibrating. So it's really low, and it's not very loud. And just to remind you again, if you have some friends who are trying to learn Mandarin, they usually cannot distinguish tone 2 and tone 3. For them, it's just the same. So all you have to do is just to tell them tone 3 has a little bit of creakiness to it. So they do ma, jiao, da. You have that, just add that to it. Native speakers would automatically recognize, oh, that's a tone 3. Okay, just so you know. And murmur, breathy voice is different. So imagine when you are saying, oh, there's actually Try saying the English word ahead. When you're saying ahead, the h sound, do you think it's a voiceless sound or a voiced sound? Ahead, ahead, ahead. Usually it's voiceless, but have you ever pronounced it as ahead, 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 ahead? Try do the voiceless version. Ahead, 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 ahead. So murmur sound is actually like what Voldemort talks. How Voldemort talks. 伏地魔怎么说话？ You have that breath coming out. So it's like 闹轰. Your vocal folds has a lot of 闹轰. So theoretically, you're pronouncing a voiceless sound. Your vocal folds are not vibrating. But somehow, part of your vocal folds, especially here, close to your arytenoid cartilage, it's flapping very slowly, creating that voicing sense. So when you're doing a murmur, you're pronouncing a voiceless sound, but you can feel that your vocal folds are vibrating very slowly. Can you try murmur and see if your vocal folds are vibrating? Speak with a very breathy voice. Breathy voice. Well, these sounds might, for most of Mandarin and English speakers, they are not phonemic. What do I mean when I say phonemic? Can you imagine, for us, when I say ma without a creaky voice and ma with a creaky voice, do they mean different things to you? They mean the same thing to you, right? So it means creakiness is not phonemic. It doesn't change the meaning in Mandarin. For some language, creakiness is phonemic. Yeah and yeah. Imagine you're pronouncing the palatal glide. Yeah. And try adding a little bit creakiness to that yeah. It could mean two different things in another language. Hausa is one example, okay? But for non-native speakers, it would be very easy for us to miss it, and you won't feel as sensitive to that quality of sound. But you need to know that in some language, breathiness and creakiness are phonemic in their language. That's the phonation type. So the phonation type we're introducing in this lecture, actually your book has it, I think 144. There are 4 states of the glottis. You have the voiced, that's kind of closely open, just kind of close. And then voiceless is wide open. For the murmur, it's the opening close to your arytenoid cartilage. It's kind of open. This is me trying to mimic what's on the picture. And then for creaky voice, this part is not vibrating, but that part is. That's how you get the creakiness. Okay? So that's the 4 phonation type we're introducing. Okay, moving on to voice onset time. This is crucial. I think for all the students who are interested in linguistics, in sounds, you should know about voice onset time. So please pay close attention. The definition of voice onset time is the moment at which the voicing starts relative to the release of a closure. In plain English, it's the duration between onset of voicing, when you start pronouncing the voiced segment, and the relative distance to the closure. It's not plain enough. Let me show you a picture. Okay, this is me saying ata, ata, ata. And now that you have used prod, this part we haven't introduced, but this is the waveform. This is the spectrogram. You will eventually see it later in this class. And these are just some annotations here that I add. This part is the ah part, and this part is the ah part. That should be very clear. And for the vowels, they're much louder. So you can see on the waveform, they have a much bigger up and down. This actually represents the intensity. 这是跟音量跟强度有关系的. And most of the vowels are louder than the consonants. So when you're looking at the waveform, you can start being a baby phonetician and start learning about waveforms. So these are usually vowels or sonorant, louder consonants. You have the ah here and the ah here. What you need to know is 3 things happens in between. Now, I want you to try. When you're saying ta after the ah, can you analyze what you are doing in your mouth? After ah, what's the very first thing you do? Alveolar, tongue. Which part of your tongue is touching the alveolar? The tip of your tongue is touching the alveolar ridge. You're raising the tip of your tongue to touch the alveolar ridge. That's the first step. So that's actually the first arrow. And then there are 2 things you're doing. What happened in between this arrow to here? Stop. Do you see there's nothing? There's nothing in your waveform and your spectrogram. You're holding it right there at ta. So when I was pausing there, that's the blank spot. At. This is ta. So this is where you release the closure. Okay? And then after you release the closure, remember I always talk about there's an aspiration coming out after your ta sound. Ta, ta, ta. That puff of air actually will show on your spectrogram. This is your puff of air. And then the ah sound comes out. Okay? So these 3 arrows represents A, raise the tongue to block the air. Okay? And then point B, you release air. You release the closure. This is your closure. So far, so good? Now, this is where your voicing starts. And in this case, ta is a voiceless sound, right? So the voicing starts when the vowel starts. And voice onset time, by definition, is C minus B. 就是这个点减掉这一个点的时间. So this is the voice onset time we're talking about. Okay, back to the definition again, just in case. Okay, now come again. The moment at which the voicing starts relative to the release of a closure. So we want to know how long that puff of air is for voiceless sounds. Let's hear this voiceless aspirated T. Now there are no vowels in front of it, so all we can see is this is the closure. You see there's nothing in it, that's the closure. And this is where you release the air. This is where you release. And where does the voicing start? Is it here or here? This is, the vowel starts here. You can see by the waveform. Okay, you probably can't see it very clearly there. Once you're, this is showing your, so I don't know how much physics you remember. Whenever your vocal fold is vibrating periodically, that's when your voicing starts. So 如果你看到那个波形开始有规则了，有没有？你知道 you can see this is one complete wave, and this is another one. It's probably starting here. This is where your voicing starts. Whenever the periodic waveform can be seen. And let me show you a trick. In prot, it actually gives you a hint of where the voicing starts. You see this blue line here? 有没有看到这条蓝色的线? It represents your pitch. So usually for voiced vowels are mostly voiced, you can see that blue line. You can activate it by turning on. If you go to pitch and you go show pitch, the blue line will show. So you will know exactly where the voicing starts. So we're calculating this time period between the voicing and the release of the closure. And can you see how long it is for this VOT? This is in second. So how many seconds or milliseconds? 看得到吗? Can you see the number here? It's 94 milliseconds. 以毫秒计算，因为它实在太短了。Okay? So this is how we calculate voice onset time. So all you have to do is find where the closure is released and where the voicing starts. Okay, so these are actually waveforms of a person saying a buy, a pie, and a spy. So the initial part, there is a. These are the I'm so short. These are the and then spy. Let me mark the release of the closure for you. So where does the closure start? This is where the closure starts. This is where it starts, okay? And there's a blank after it. So you have, this is where the closure is released. Did you mark that? It's a completely blank, and then you open your mouth. So there's some air coming out of your mouth, triggering this kind of turbulence, okay? And then for buy, it's somewhere here. Do you see this tiny little point? Let me maximize it. Can you see before? Can you see before this vowel starts? There's a tiny, very. Let me move it to precisely where it is. This is where the release of closure is. Okay. How about the third one? Is this where you mark the release of your closure? 就在这个小小的端点的前面。Okay. And then, what's the onset of your voicing? The next one, it's almost overlapping. It's the very first spike of the vowel, and then for this one, it's also very close. Okay, so according to what I have just drawn, which one do you think has the longest VOT? 哪一个的 VOT 最长? The first one. How do we usually describe the p sound? As in voicing, place, manner. Is it voiced or voiceless? It's voiceless. And then for this P, okay, the first one is a P, and the last one is also a P phoneme, right? But they are pronounced slightly differently. And that difference lies in VOT. The P as in spy has a very short VOT. You don't feel that puff of air coming out, which makes it sound very similar to buy. Spy. Imagine you're saying spy and then contrast it with buy. Spy, buy. It sounds almost the same, isn't it? So this brings us to another fact. It's in your textbook as well. In American English, most of the stops are not truly voiced. I mean, we say b sound is a voiced stop, right? But when you can actually try pronouncing buy. Since it sounds so similar to spy, I can tell you, and you can record yourself and double check it in prod. Your vocal folds are not vibrating when you're saying buy. spy, as in spy. They don't vibrate. In American English, these voiced consonants only have that true voicing vibration when they follow another voiced sound. So give me a sound that B is in the middle. Bobby, Bobby. That first ba is probably not voiced, but the B, 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 B. Feel that first ba, 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 and B, B, B. Can you feel that the second B has more of the lower quality? That's because your vocal folds are vibrating. Because the vowel in front of it is a voiced vowel, and there is a voiced vowel after it, so you naturally get contaminated by your voiced neighbors. So that's how you calculate VOT. Does it sound clear to you now? You use the C point to minus the B point. You get your VOT. So this might look clear, but look at this. I'm going to introduce a peculiar case. It's not peculiar for phoneticians, but you will find it very bizarre when you first encounter it. Look at this one. This is a Sindhi. This is a language spoken in India. It's a D. This is a voiced D sound. Now, how is this one different from all the ones that we have seen so far? Can you see anything that's different? No stop. Oh, okay. I can explain about a no stop. Because when you're recording, you see this is nothing, but it's still showing some background noise. That's why it doesn't have the stop. But let me promise you, there is a stop. It starts here, and it's released here. Okay, just take my word for it. You notice this. Actually, you can go back and check the recording you just submitted. You will see there background noise. Even there are nothing, nobody's saying anything, there background noise. So there is a stop. But so if you take my word, this is where the stop starts, and this is where it ends. How is this different from the thing that you have seen so far?
Daru. Daru.
Okay, it sounds like daru, right? Daru. So there is a stop, the D quality stop. The.
Daru. Daru. Daru.
Okay, the lu part is the same, so you don't have to care about the lu part. But pay attention to this da part. This is a stop too. This is where you start the stop, and this is where you release the stop. You see this? This is where you release it. And this is where you start the voicing. Okay? We haven't talked about vowels yet, but whenever you see this tiny earthworm-looking thing, that's where you start your vowel. 就是有这些黑条的这个都是 vowel. So this is where you start, and the blue line tells you your voicing starts there. Remember I told you that the blue line is your helper? Whenever there is a blue line, your vocal folds are vibrating, right? And when your vocal folds are vibrating, we define it as voiced sound. Okay? So in this graph, the blue line starts here. And what's this region? What's happening in your mouth? What are your articulators doing during this period of time? Your vocal fold is vibrating. I'm asking about what your mouth is doing. Where you're doing the stop, da, da, daru,
Daru.
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 The way to calculate VOT is you find this part, and you find the release of the closure, and your VOT is most likely from C 减掉 B. It's probably this pink region. This is the VOT. Okay? Now this one is tricky. Where is the C point? Remember, the definition is where the voicing starts. It's not where the vowel starts. So the VOT for this one is actually a minus case, 是负的, a negative value. 所以你的坐标可以，这个 C 点是 we can make this 0 and this would be would be positive 149 milliseconds. So 0 minus 149 would be 负149. Okay? This is slightly complicated. The only thing that's different is in Shindy, when they're pronouncing a the sound, their vocal folds are vibrating when they're having the closure. Now, can that happen? When you're blocking the air inside your mouth, can you make your vocal fold vibrate at the same time? 你觉得你可以吗？ Can you do b sound and then vibrate while you have your mouth closed? As long as you can close your mouth and then at the same time put the finger on top of your vocal folds. And can you, even very short, can you do a vibration when you have the mouth closed? Can you? You should all can. Later you can come touch my throat. I can show you. We can do that. So this is what we call a truly voiced stop. A truly voiced stop means that you do have that voicing during the closure. But this stop doesn't happen in Mandarin, so you're not familiar with it. So if I were to ask you to pronounce a voiced D or voiced G, it's going to be slightly difficult. All you're producing is what? So here's the question. When you're pronouncing the G in Mandarin, what type of stop are you pronouncing? What's a k stop? Is it voice or voiceless? Voiceless. Is it aspirated or unaspirated? Aspirated. So k is a voiceless aspirated stop. Now, Mandarin g, in true phonetic spirit, what type of consonant is it? Again, is it voiced or voiceless? Is it aspirated or unaspirated? Is it voiced? G. Let's do b so we can contrast with this one. Oh, I'm sorry, d. This is the d sound. When you do the Mandarin d, t, n, d. Now continue that sound, and I'm going to play this sound. You do d.
Daru. 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 Daru.
Do you feel there is a daru, daru? That n part is his vocal fold vibrating during the closure. 所以一个真正的货真价实的 voice 的 D 应该要有一个，它应该要有 voicing. And our the are fake. Not fake. It's not a voiced sound. We're merely pronouncing as in stop. We're pronouncing that the sound as in stop. When we're pronouncing the Mandarin the, it's Mandarin the is a voiceless, unaspirated stop. It's not a true voiced stop. 这样清楚吗？就是说我们一直以为的 Mandarin 的或者是English 的 voiced， 其实它在 initial position 就是它大部分的时候都是 voiceless, unaspirated。只有在英文里面，只有它是在两个 vowel 中间的时候，它才会被发成一个 voiced sound. And in Mandarin, there's very few truly voiced consonant. OK， 我们 Mandarin 里头其实真正 voiced 的子音很少。The contrast is usually lies in between the aspiration. The d is unaspirated, t is aspirated, b is unaspirated, p is aspirated, and then g, k is the same. That's the voice onset time. Okay? So you just have to remember when it's truly voiced, when it has that vibration during the closure, your voice onset time will be a negative value. Okay? If it's not clear, you can go back and read the textbook again. It will be more clear.